Welcome to Season 3 of Malevolent Autopsy. I'm your host, Queen. I use she, her pronouns, and I am so excited to be here with you all. Now, let me warn you, the show contains major spoilers for everything Malevolent as of the day this episode is published, so if you're not caught up, I'm not liable. Before we get started tonight, I'd like to ask my lovely co-host, what part of Arthur's body are you bidding on getting injured this week?
Howdy, hello, I'm Vol Control, he, him pronouns, and this week I'm betting Arthur's extremities are getting injured. It sounds like he's about to step into some weather that's likely to risk exposure. So yeah, Lilith said brisk. I think that was a bit of an understatement.
I love that. Would you like to remind our public listeners of what we just listened to?
I would love to. We had a big chapter this week, a whole 20-minute treat to cap off the end of part 58. While the poll last week wasn't worded exactly like this, the end result is the same. We elected to kill Larson. The king is not pleased, but it becomes oh so transparently clear that it's not about punishing Larson. It's about the king, about John punishing himself. Arthur realizes this, but the king leaves in a huff, and Lilith pushes for them to get this over with already and get her in that southern man. Goodbyes with Larson are short and sweet, and we finally have a successful body swap on screen. Lilith is delighted with her new digs, but more importantly, Arthur can see again. After flexing her shape-shifting abilities, Lilith and Arthur hash out where they stand. Allies for now. Lilith ushers Arthur off to talk with the king while she stretches her new legs. Arthur finds the king and finally lays eyes upon his form that is said to inspire madness merely to gaze upon. And he's just so darn curious. But enough questions. They need to talk. The king reveals that he can still hear Yellow and John as distinct voices within him, but he doesn't understand why or how he should decide who to listen to. Arthur gives a shout out to the patrons by explaining that he hears voices in his head. And ultimately, he's never 100% certain that he's listening to the right voices or doing the right thing. But it's all about making that choice and moving forward. The king and Arthur meet back up with Lilith at the thinnest place in the Dreamlands. The king opens the portal, intending to stay behind. But at the last moment, John gets his racing through the airport rom-com moment and says, "Wait!" John and Arthur are finally reunited and ready for the endgame. Let's do this.
Let's fucking go!
Let's go! It is endgame time.
Oh, I'm so excited! I'm so excited! I'm also dreading it, but I'm so excited.
Yeah, the gang's all here. The gang's all together. I love that when they do their 1, 2, 3, they each take a number. I thought that was really cute.
Vol, this is such a good chapter.
Such a good chapter. There's so many things, so many scenes, so many interactions that happened, and each one of them is so special in its own right. Could have been a whole week's worth of content for me, honestly. But you know what? Before we get to carrots and sticks, way before, I just want to say that one of my favorite things that kind of runs throughout is all of Lilith's lines. Again, I know I've been saying this since Lilith got a speaking role, but oh man, all of her sassy little lines just kill me.
I loved Lilith. I continue to love Lilith. I have turned into her biggest fan, but like in a completely different way than her other biggest fans are. They're her biggest fan. I'm her biggest fan because she's so get to the fucking point, and that is how I live my life, really.
Yeah. Queen is not interested in all the like lore and backstory. No. Here and now, Lilith's fucking awesome.
I loved it. I loved her cut. It's almost like, oh my god, you know what? It's perfect example. It's what makes lemon dessert so good.
What?
It's the fact that it's a dessert. It's sweet.
Go on, I'm listening.
It's sweet, but it's undercut with this like necessary tartness. You need the cut of levity to appreciate the depth of the emotional experience we just went through.
Right. Yes, the Lilith lemon cake parallels. I'm seeing your vision now.
we should talk about carrots and sticks before I get lost.
I'm bringing it back. Bringing it back. I'm bringing it back.
So, Vol, what was your carrot for this episode?
My carrot for this episode, well, there were a lot of them, and I snuck in a cheeky little talking about Lilith first, but if I had to pick one, it would be the quote-unquote king saying, "What's wrong with my face?" in the most John tone of voice. It was so endearing.
What's wrong with my face?
Just
He's so
that
worried.
whole scene was just magical. It was a true gift to the fans that we finally got some little details of canon description of the King in Yellow as Harlan sees him, and also that we get confirmation, because all the fans agree on this. Arthur is not bothered by eldritch horrors at this point.
No.
And even though he hasn't had to witness them with his own eyeballs and, like, take that in, we all knew he was not gonna be fussed when he finally saw John in the flesh. If he ever saw John. I can say when, now in retrospect, but...
Right, of course. Yeah. Well, and I think too, it's such a fine line to walk between describing just enough and not describing everything. Because I know that I share Harlan's opinion and that I really, really appreciate seeing everyone depict John in different ways. And I am hoping that doesn't make anyone stop drawing John the way they see it, even if, quote unquote, the fingers aren't canon, or like if you didn't draw him with a cloak, maybe like now you feel like you can't because canonically he does have a cloak. Like, I hope nobody takes it like that, because Harlan has always talked about in interviews, commentaries, all kinds of stuff. Listen to the fucking commentaries. He's always talked about like preserving the ability to interpret visuals however you want, because that is such a freeing thing, and I think it is what makes podcast such an attractive media to me, because I get to make shit up.
Absolutely. It is like very theater of the mind, and I think it really allows people to be really creative. And I think that we have gone on so long with so much creative freedom in the fandom to imagine what John looks like, and there's a lot of like commonalities between people's designs and like places where people divert from those common designs that I don't think they're gonna be like, oh, okay, cool, like we have some canon things, but like still gonna make it, my version.
I even think it's cool because now we kind of have a uniform for John where, sometimes, let's be honest, sometimes it's hard to tell if someone's drawing a podcast fan art because you might be imagining something completely different and might not even recognize the same character. But now I kind of feel like if I see somebody drawing a figure with a yellow cloak and a weird amount of fingers, it's probably John. It's probably not from a different fandom. So I'm on the right track, and I really like that. So I love the way that happened. What was your stick?
Oh, my stick was another one of those little lines that stuck out to me on my second or third listen. So before Larson dies, he says to Arthur, "It had to be you. It always had to be you." Now, he could be talking about their history, but what if he knew something about why Arthur is special? Like there was a bigger reason that it always had to be Arthur.
A prophecy. I bet you Larson knows that Arthur is some kind of figurehead he's read about or some shit like that. He's such a freak. Sorry, I feel like Larson is one of those people who just makes shit up. Like, of course it had to be you.
Right, the prophecy.
And Arthur's like, there is no prophecy. What are you fucking talking
Arthur's
about?
like, I'm just a guy. I'm just a dude. Stop putting me in your fairy tales, man. It's weird. It's wigging me out.
Yeah.
But I just, the reason that I picked that as my stick is just because we won't get closure on that, probably. I don't know.
Well, he's dead, so.
Exactly.
Probably not.
All right, Queen, what was your carrot this week?
My carrot is a direct quote that I'm gonna make you all sit here and listen to. Sorry, guys. That's the nature of choice, and every choice is viewed through a distinct lens, a lens of purpose and intention, of value, ethics, belief, and experiences. All these different voices weighing in on a singular question. Do we search upstairs or downstairs? Do we take the road or follow the shore? Do we pull a dagger or run? Do we eat bread or cheese? All these choices, every single one, was met with a multitude of voices, all wanting different things. What is the value of taking the road? What are the ethics of killing Larson? What is my experience in wanting bread? In the end, it's never about certainty. It's about making a choice and moving forward. And man, that was like, I don't think I expected any more acknowledgement from this podcast after the Waylay. I was fully convinced that that was the cute little nod to patrons, and I was so happy with that. I remain extremely happy with that. But the direct acknowledgement of how votes have played a role in the story and the way that it's been told touches my heart in a way I can't even describe, because it truly feels like I was part of the story for a little while, and it feels beautiful to know that to know that the person in charge of all of this has a deep understanding of how it works for us, because I think he's so uninvolved in the voting process as intended. DMs don't weigh in on votes, on roles and decisions the party makes. They're not supposed to. That sometimes it can feel like, do you know how much we talk about it and think about it and how hard we work to get to a consensus and all of the crazy stuff that happens? Sometimes it can feel like it's just another part of the process,
Right.
and the machine keeps
Right.
turning.
And then it's happening almost like separately in a way, like in its own little vacuum.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was
Yes.
so lovely. The way that it's phrased, the way that Arthur expresses it, that is both so referential and acknowledging the patrons and the voters, and yet is still so genuine for the human experience is really, it was really lovely.
And I loved that before that beautiful quote is, you make it seem like every choice I made was easy, but I was never 100% certain about anything I've chosen to do during our time together. First of all, we've never done 100% in a vote. Not before I was here, not
That's
after I was
right.
here. It's just never
Yeah.
happened.
I love that you pointed out that little detail. I didn't even think about that.
We've never been able to successfully 100% a vote, and I, first of all, like it that way. But second of all, I think that is a very, very smart and difficult lesson, especially for me in life. You can never be 100% certain. You can think you're very close, but there's nothing you're ever totally certain about. And I think it's close to saying you can't. There's no such thing as perfection.
Right.
And aiming to be perfect is more detrimental usually. And but that doesn't mean you don't get to just not try.
Right. It's that balance. Yeah.
When we were in the chat and people were talking about the votes, when this quote was coming up in the re-listen that we did, I said, we've never been able to 100% a poll. And somebody said, do you think we ever could? And I said, genuinely no, but that would not stop me from trying. And that was like, it sounds
right. Yeah, that's exactly the sentiment.
It sounds contradictory, because like, if you know it's never going to happen, why are you going to keep trying? And I found myself answering that question with, well, because it's not actually about getting the 100%. It's about the intention behind it. The journey that you take trying to get to that goal is so much more important than the goal.
It's about the journey.
And
100%.
I so rarely feel that way about anything. I'm a person who prioritizes outcomes, as they call it at work. And I can easily talk myself out of trying things, because what's the point? So this chapter was just, first of all, a beautiful, beautiful moment encapsulating the vote and how much it means to me and how important it is. Also feeling that acknowledgement from Arthur, such a beloved character, and to just see it so clearly laid out in the narrative, and take this moment to tell the public, like, this is how it's been going. This is why it matters. This is, I don't know, it just felt like a really good way to convey everything that's happened behind the scenes for so many years now. And It also just made me think of, like, I started this podcast because of the votes, and it's very precious to me. So this whole
Right.
section was a big deal.
Yeah, it was written for you,
It
actually.
was written for me.
No, I know that I've said this before about other parts, especially during this season, but every so often it feels like Mr. Harlan Guthrie writes a little love letter to his fans. I mean, really, every chapter is kind of a love letter to his fans because it's this story that we love so much, and so every little bit of it unfolding is like a love letter to us. But every so often he kind of points at us in particular and says, this one's for you guys.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it truly feels like he's thinking about us in the writing, and sometimes I feel a little silly thinking, it's not all about you, Queen,
Right.
but sometimes I feel like he really, especially when things like choices come up in the
Yeah.
podcast, makes me feel very much like, hi buddy, hi Harlan,
Right.
I see you too.
Yeah. Yeah, and that quote about how it's about making the choice and moving forward. The part that really sticks with me is the moving forward part. And this is something that comes up with a lot of characters that I write, and usually to their detriment. But I feel like that there's something so important about not getting hung up on getting it perfect, just moving forward. And how does that quote go? Do the next best right thing. Do the next right thing.
Do the next right
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
I especially am, as somebody deeply paralyzed with anxiety most of the time, can be very easy to just stop and to not move
yeah.
forward and to keep harping on what you could have done better. Part of what makes Malevolent so motivating for me is there is no pausing when I make a wrong vote.
Right,
There is going to be another vote
right.
next
You
week,
gotta keep
and I'm
going.
going to have to make another fucking decision. And before we started the show, I was like mourning because I was so wrong about how this whole King in Yellow
Yeah.
thing worked. And I do want to acknowledge, I do see that I was
Oh my
deeply
God, there are
wrong.
no wrong
And,
ideas in brainstorming, Queen.
and the important thing is that I show up and do the podcast again next week and go, I don't know who she was.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep talking about stuff. So I loved that message about,
Yeah.
you can't be 100% certain. You just have to make a choice and move
Yeah,
forward.
yeah, it was really beautiful. Well, with that out of the way, what was your stick?
It's almost over.
No, don't say that.
Malevolent season 6 is almost over. And it really felt like that. This was the chapter where it flooded me. I had like a biological reaction at the end of the chapter where I felt this physical wave of emotion pass from my eyes all the way down to my knees. I just like felt it.
Yeah.
And it was like so visceral for me in a way that it just hasn't been yet. I'm such a short-sighted person when it comes to Malevolent. I'm thinking week to week. And so I don't pull out, I don't even usually know what part we're on when we're doing it. Like, I don't remember the numbers because I'm just thinking about the chapter.
Well, everyone in the chat is covering their ears and saying la 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 and saying that it's not over yet. So I can't hear you, Queen. I'm sorry.
And it's okay. You don't have to hear me. But I just want to express, like, it's the first time I've really felt it, and I'm not scared. Yeah. There's a lot of emotions, but I'm not scared. I am primarily anxious, and anxious in the way that's like, what's going to happen next, which is why it's my stick. It's not really something I'm upset about. It's just something I'm anxious about. But I will say one of the things that really helped me make sure that my feelings did not tip into like
spiraling out. Yeah.
Was actually the way that he chose to end this chapter was so action movie in a way that is like my favorite thing. I love you have this like deeply emotional, slow building moment of catharsis where like the two main characters are reunited and they have this like deep heartfelt discussion. But the second it's over, you get that like throbbing
the return of the throbbing track,
like,
the menacing season 6 Dark World throbbing track. Obsessed.
You can just tell that Harlan went to film school,
Yeah.
because that kind of thing is in film and it gets me so, like, when I'm sitting in a movie theater, I get goosebumps when I realize that we're at the climax of the action and they're about to jump into the
Right.
void or like go beat up a superhero or whatever. I guess that would be a supervillain, but
Whatever.
whatever. My point is, it was that vibe that got me so stoked, because I'm realizing, okay, all the sad, fluffy, emotional shit is out of the way. We're about to do a bunch of crazy end of the world Kane
We're
shit.
about to
And
kick
I'm
some
so excited
serious
about
ass or have our asses
We're
seriously kicked.
that. Probably both. And like, there's going to be so many cool things to look forward to. And I'm like so excited about that. So, really, really, really excited. Also, just like, yes, I guess a little bit of me is sad, but that is the nature. Everything has to end,
Yes.
Everything must
Yes.
end.
Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
And with that, I think we are ready to move on to voice submissions.
Hello, hi, I'm Oakley, he, they. To quote Arthur, oh my god, oh my god. My sweet cheese, my baby boy, he's back, John is back. Oh my god, what a fantastic chapter. Okay, the way the King's mask slipped during the initial outburst, the admission that we had heard John and Yellow within him the whole time, the absolute rom-com-esque moment where he chases after Arthur in the last few minutes. Side note, fellas, is it gay to eat a stone with your friend's soul inside of it after saying the world sounds more beautiful through his words than it ever will look through your own eyes? Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. From an allegorical standpoint, I love how John's returning to the king was emphasized as an issue of both autonomy and authenticity. When we're scared or in danger, it's easy to return to a version of ourselves that we feel is safer, and that's a valid choice. But that doesn't mean it's not what we necessarily want to do. Trans or cis, this is something I feel everyone can relate to. John helplessly insisting that he needed to try, he needed to see what it would be like, and just being met over and over with Arthur's unconditional love and acceptance made me actually tear up. Something I'm also going crazy over is the brief comparison of John's repression of his identity to Arthur's repression in marrying Bella. Queer Arthur truthers rise. Intentional or not, it's beautiful to see Arthur connect to his best friend in such a genuine way. God, I don't even have time to touch on the joy that is Lilson, but it's fine. I'm just so happy the boys are together again. On to defeat Kane with the power of friendship. Or the lighter. Probably just the lighter.
Thank you, Oakley.
Honestly, one of the reasons I put this message first is because it took me out so hard. Is it gay to eat a stone with your friend's soul? I had to share that with everyone.
Vol, I just want you to know, I would eat a stone with your soul in it.
Oh, that's so sweet.
That's how much I love you.
I would do the same, absolutely. John and Arthur core for real.
I love that.
It's very funny. And I do think that I love how many opportunities Harlan gives and sort of doesn't shy away from to allow some like queer coding or queer reading. I think that that's something that everyone has really enjoyed, even though Harlan has his own reasons for writing it the way that he does. Do think that it's really interesting to, especially to have like a character with a dead wife who he has to grapple with the fact that like he didn't really love her in the way that he felt she deserved, and he pretended to be the person that he thought he needed to be and caused harm because of it. And so I like that Oakley pointed out that parallel between John choosing to try an identity that didn't make him happy in the same way that Arthur tried to fulfill this role that didn't make him happy.
Yeah, I thought it was great. And I especially like that we are able to see so much of ourselves in journeys like this, no matter what the canon says.
Yes.
I think that it is a very, very, very valuable trait, and it is a measure of good writing that people are able to relate themselves to characters and also understand that it doesn't necessarily need to be canon to mean something.
Absolutely. That's how I feel. I mean, I that's why we support all headcanons, all interpretations, all theories. Like,
Yes.
and I think that Malevolent is so rich for that. And I that's one of the things that's so rich about the fandom too.
I absolutely appreciate and embrace everybody's perspective, but I especially value perspectives from voices that are not my own. I am famously cisgender, and so I cannot speak on a lot of things that other folks can relate to. So I'm very glad to have everybody else being able to contribute too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool seeing, listening to such a rich variety of identities and trans voices in the community that resonate so much. And, even just queer people in general in the community that resonate with the story. It's really cool.
Yes, agreed.
Hi, this is Misraa, pronoun she, they, and this chapter was just so beautiful and such a catharsis. We got John back, the boys are back together, and this time they are both choosing this. Both sacrificing things because the loss of those things pales in comparison to losing each other. I especially can't get over how Arthur bravely got his eyesight back and was able to see the king, to have a conversation with him face to face. And you could tell the king was nervous to be seen and perceived by Arthur. What's wrong with my face? But for Arthur, there was no fear or disgust, only curiosity and fascination that he was finally able to see his friend. And I can't get over Arthur comparing their hand sizes. And of course the hands are what Arthur is drawn to. Besides a voice in his head, Arthur mostly interacts with John through the hand he controls, the hand that helps guide and comfort him. And hands are something a piano player would pay attention to, and I can't help but think of that flashback we got last episode of Arthur and Fro, her comparing her tiny hands to her dad's.
I don't know if I should thank you.
I know, Mr. Always coming in here to just squeeze our hearts. Ugh. Yeah, the fact that Arthur mentions his hands, and could be one of those things where it's like, oh, well, Harlan just wanted to give us a visual because that's one of the distinctive things he imagines. But I do think that there's something about the fact that Arthur is used to John being in control of his hand, and that's how they have been able to interact with each other. But you didn't have to go and bring Faro's little baby hands into it, Misraa.
I was also thinking that as a person who used to be deeply connected to instruments and piano, that hands might be the thing that Arthur looks at on people more often than not, and the thing he notices, because that's just his tools of the trade.
Yeah.
And like usually people with their own priorities, I notice people's writing because I like to write and I write a lot. So if I see a sample of their writing, I'll go, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I'll look for that.
Yeah. It is the detail that kind of you relate to first impressions or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But I loved every detail. I can't imagine that this scene has not been played out in Harlan's head and that he at least has some notes on what this was going to be like, because man, it just felt like every minute was intentional. It was a 20-minute episode.
Yeah, it was so intentional. Yeah.
Hi, Snake, she, her, and he, him. I just want to highlight the part of the episode that touched me the most. When the king asked Arthur if he'd be willing to be together again, with all the drawbacks and pain it caused. For a story rife with the suffering that has come of John and Arthur being bound together, and often emphasized at points how seemingly untenable their being in the same body was, it was beyond lovely to me that the two of them would not only choose to be together, but that they would do so fully embracing the drawbacks and pain it caused. That is innately part of them, just as much as the joy, and it deserves embracing and even reframing into something beautiful.
Thank you, Snake, so much for your beautiful submission.
Yeah, Snake, I love the way that you phrased it, embracing the pain and the hardship, and even reframing it and their relationship to it. Yeah, I thought that I think it's so powerful that they choose to be together. They choose to go back into this situation that has been so fraught for them for so long, but they finally come to accept it and embrace it and even prefer it.
Hey, let's remember, you go back, what, 4 autopsy episodes ago, we were having full-on meltdowns over what was going on and what was happening.
Right.
And, like, the fact that John was dead. And, I mean, nobody... You have to remember, public, nobody knew this was how the part was going to end. You've been hearing our journey week to week. We genuinely just don't know how things are shaking out. And so we sound overreactive and crazy because we just don't have any context yet. And we can't calm down and wait. We don't know how to do that here.
We are chronic catastrophizers. Just it's so over. We're so back. We're so back.
So, like, look, I want to point out that, like, this was so clearly, now that the part is over, I can just see how it was supposed to be a mountain. It's like you had to see John choosing this on purpose and having these experiences and being in this body and knowing all of this to know he didn't like it. You needed to know that it wasn't just naivete and ignorance that was keeping him from knowing how he'd feel if it were any other way. I mean, I think it's beautiful to show that, like, sometimes people have to figure out what they want. And it's not always linear. You don't just wake up and know everything about what you want and how you're going to get there.
I love the way that at first the king basically says, like, I had to try. I had to know what this would be like, what it would be like to be whole again. And you know, essentially says, like, Arthur says, like, it makes a difference whether the king is actually happy or feels whole, feels right being whole. And the king says, like, no, it doesn't make a difference. And I love that Arthur is, like, it, you know, really impresses the point on him that, like, he doesn't have to do this because he feels obligated to be whole. You know what I mean? And I think that that all was just such a beautiful and, like, nuanced conversation about identity.
I mean, stop me if this is going to come up again, but the way that Arthur outlines the two of them, once they separated, became a whole. Those are two separate people, and splitting from the king as an identity doesn't make them fragments. They are their only selves. And, like, the fact that there are so many people in the world who truly feel like they will not be whole unless they find somebody else. They are waiting for, I mean, you hear it in romance all the time. My other half, my, you know, the person that completes me. There's a lot of stock being put into the idea that another person makes you whole and who you are, because you just can't possibly imagine how you could be one identity or one true person without having another person connected to them. And that's not true for everybody. I'm not saying that it's not true for some. Maybe you feel very strongly about that as a concept. I certainly do. I'm an extremely romantic person, but I don't think that's for everybody. And I also feel very strongly that my identity as a person, I've spent over 30 years forging that, and that doesn't go away because I'm joined with somebody in a new relationship, no matter what kind of relationship that is. And I think John expressing that, like, this is how it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to be whole. I'm supposed to be with this other half. And Arthur going, no, actually, you don't have, like, if you want that, that's fine, but you don't have to do that.
To have that. Yeah, and as the resident, not only trans person but also a romantic person in the chat, I definitely I love how empathetic Arthur is and how good he is at trying to help John explore the possibilities and remind him that he doesn't have to be locked into being this one way. Like, even if John thinks that he isn't good enough to be human, like, he doesn't fit that mold, and he's struggled with this before and had some triumphs where he's realized, like, he doesn't have to be pure good or pure evil, but I think that part of him wanting to be whole again as the king is because, like, he didn't feel like he was cut out to be this model of humanity that Arthur has been teaching him and that he has been aspiring towards. And that's a lot of why he was, you know, projecting all of this feeling onto Larson. And I think that it's just so cool to see Arthur remind him that the most human thing he can do is question his identity and choose not to fit the mold that he thinks he quote unquote should fit.
Yeah, beautiful. I believe our next submission is an email.
It is. Hi, Autopsy. I'm Fractals. I use AM and its pronouns. This chapter was so phenomenal. I still haven't recovered. It was also such an important part in John and Arthur's story. Even though they have both expressed their appreciation of each other and desire to be together, in the background there has always been this idea that they didn't get to choose this, that Arthur's sight was taken by John, and John was trapped inside Arthur, their existence and friendship a compromise given the circumstances. And now, having them both to choose to be together, for John to feel quote unquote more whole being Arthur's eyes, and for Arthur to prefer the world described the way John sees it, for them to choose to be each other's other half despite what the world may tell them, is so deeply impactful and important. And now I'm going back to incoherently screaming into my pillows. Bye!
Thank you, Fractals. Lovely submission. Yeah, I mean, literally what we were just talking about. You can't know that he wants it until you see that he doesn't have to have it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I'll say it again, louder for the people in the back. The fact that they get to choose this time is so important.
It is, and don't go looking for it. It's not published. I've written about that. Like, the fact that John and Arthur are literally put together as victims of circumstance. Neither one of them wanted that. Neither one of them asked for that. They both made each other's lives a living hell. There was no way to ethically feel good about keeping them together unless there was a way for them to be apart, and they chose not to take it.
Yes, absolutely.
And that made me feel so much better about an ending where they are both together, because to me, I was like, oh, that sucks for Arthur to not have the choice.
Right, yes.
And once he expressed that he really wanted to keep John in his eyes for the first time in this season, I was like, oh, never mind. I feel better about it. But this really cemented.
And the line, he basically like cuts John off, like, I would prefer to have you describe the world as you see it. Oh, man. Oh.
Consent is key, ladies and gentlemen. We love a consenting king.
So good. So good.
In the flesh? In the flesh? Pie, she, her. New voice, exciting. Harlan's doing a wonderful job. We have not heard Lilith speak in the present. She's only appeared as her true form on 3 occasions. The woman in the rift, from whom we only heard laughter, by the fire, where she remained silent until she returned to Scratch's form, and when she was forcibly changed by Cain. The only time we have heard Lilith speak is standing over Arthur's bed as a child. Why is she trusting us with this? I suppose she's grateful.
We get to have our stone and eat it too. He needed to know. John, you found what your answer was. You are not a lesser whole. Be Haster's heart if you wish, but you can have Arthur's too. You needed to know, you needed to try, but by God do you belong crawled back inside of Arthur's head. You deserve to go home. And Yellow, my king, what will become of you? What's next?
If you could not tell, that was a submission from Pie. Pie, your submissions drive me up the wall, insane, crazy, beautiful, gorgeous. However, I need you to say your name, my friend. Oh my God.
Pie did. Just after they said in the flesh a couple of times.
I couldn't even get past the in the flesh. I think that's how out of it I was. Like, oh. We're talking about flesh so soon.
Yeah, and Pi submitted this in 2 submissions, but for time I squished them together. And so their first message was all about Lilith, and then their second submission was the really emotional reaction to the chapter. But I am really curious about, yeah, the fact that Pi brings up that Lilith has only rarely shown us her true form or her true voice. Very curious.
Oh my god, if no one's gonna mention it, I'll mention it. The Lilith voice, the like unfiltered Lilith voice that we got.
What?
I've never doubted Harlan. I've never doubted him, but this is the first time where I was like, I don't know if he's completely free of the made a pact with the devil allegations. Right. Because how do you do that voice?
Yeah.
How the fuck did you do that?
I'm so curious. And the fact that he can keep all of these secrets to himself, I could never.
No wonder he doesn't talk very much, because my ass would never be able to keep this secret.
And because
there's
so many other super important, super impactful things that happen in this chapter, it's like everybody forgot to ask Harlan, like, how the fuck did you do that, my guy? And in some cases, I can tell or I assume that it's just stock, but to be able to read a line, and a line like in the flesh, that feels like it had to be recorded.
It feels like it had to be recorded. And even if it wasn't, I would just be impressed that he made it blend so well. But to me, this was like almost the equivalent of when you find an onion ring in the fry box. And it's like everyone is concerned with the fries surrounding the chapter. But the onion ring was, oh my god, that's a Lilith voice. Like, without a filter. I think I'm just hungry. I don't even like onion rings. I don't eat onion rings. I just know that's something that people really like.
You are killing it with the food analogies this episode. You're not wrong. Again, like with the lemon tart, like, you are absolutely spot on with your parallels. Your strokes of brilliance come out of nowhere, and I'm just like left in awe, and I can't stop laughing. Okay, while we're being giggly, I have to shout this out because I haven't mentioned it yet this episode, and it's very important for posterity. There has been a joke in the Malevolent fandom on the Invictus server about Arthur eating inanimate objects for months. I swear it's going on years now. Every time we have the opportunity during a vote, we talk about Arthur eating whatever it is, the stone, the ring, whatever. And we finally got it. It happened. It's real, Queen. Arthur ate the stone.
A meme saved us all. A meme saved Jarthur Nation. I am not sure I can ever forgive Harlan for this transgression. My serious horror Malevolent podcast has turned into a meme, and I am displeased.
I have Faye, longtime patron, says in the chat, 4 years since Scratch's stone in fucking 2023. We have been joking as patrons about Arthur eating something he shouldn't.
Insane. The fact that I remember all of the giggly jokes about eating the ring in Castle Cranford. There's just a fixation in this fandom on people eating things they shouldn't be eating.
We thought that Arthur might accidentally eat the lighter when he was holding it in his mouth when he had to climb down the tower at the beginning of season 6.
I don't get you, wacky kids.
Hello, Autopsy. My name is Nukuome, pronouns he, it, and what I want to talk about is very specific, and I hope at least a couple other people can relate to it. John Doe as an intentionally trans-coded character didn't really resonate with me in my trans experience until this last chapter. Yes, John is intentionally written with trans people in mind, so we get the self-discovery and the establishment of the self and the struggles that come with that, but what about the doubt? What about the feeling that, no, you're actually wrong about yourself? This isn't who you are. You'll regret this choice, and you need to make sure this is really what you want to be. That maybe if you just play the role people expect long enough, you'll learn to love it and realize that you were wrong. Someone please tell me this exists elsewhere, but I have never heard of a trans character who regressed or changed their mind about being trans within the story, or in John's case, about being John, who has fully committed to being what they were assigned and found only despair in playing that part. A quote from the king that I feel is relevant: "I need to try. This is still me. I know I would feel regret in abandoning this life because it was too hard, because I found it easier to be unconflicted. There's shame in being trans, especially if there's someone like John who struggles with self-worth. Why should you be given the chance to be happy in your own skin if you've done so many bad things? This discomfort is what you deserve, etc., etc." Sorry this is rambly, but it just matters so much to me because a big part of my trans journey was that long period of time where I doubled down into being a girl, because what if I was wrong? Being trans can be messy and confusing like many other things in life, but I find that messiness is rarely ever shown. Anyways, those are just my thoughts. Have a great autopsy, y'all.
Thank you, Nukuome, for that lovely submission.
Nukuome, you are so real for bringing this up. I love that you brought up the fact that this really is that portrayal of that doubt. And it's amazing that Harlan is able to empathize with the trans experience so much and get it so right, because I think you're absolutely right that there is not a lot of representation of that doubt, or not the internal doubt. I think that in some portrayals of trans characters, you may get that doubt of identity from outside sources, or, you know, from someone early in transition or something like that, but you rarely actually see trans characters experience that doubt that I think that, you know, 99.9% of trans people I know, I myself went through that period of doubt, because even if this other identity felt more comfortable, you kind of almost start comparing yourself to other people who share that identity, both trans people and cis people, and you think, oh well, if I don't fit into that box, then am I really that thing? Am I really that identity? Or am I just feeling confused or something? Do I need to just love myself more or something like that? And it's something that, yeah, is really not represented in media. And so thank you so much for sharing your message and bringing that up. I thought that was really cool.
Me too. I believe the next submission is another email. Hello, Autopsy. Ellie here, she, her. You know, I have considered submitting a voice message of incomprehensible joyful screams, but my voice is hoarse from already doing that when chapter 290 dropped, so I'll type out my thoughts instead, like a normal person. As if anyone can be normal about this podcast. Before I begin, I need to say that this message is my interpretation of episode 58, and thus it may be incorrect at times. From the moment the King in Yellow split apart for the first time, he was irreversibly changed. Unable to ever return to what he once was. I would even say the former King in Yellow died in that moment. His two halves believe they are both the King in Yellow, but I think they are wrong. When Yellow got sent back to the Dreamlands, he reclaimed his domain, because that is what you're supposed to do as the king, right? John and Yellow fought for the title because that is what you're supposed to do, right? The reunion of the two soul parts was the goal from the beginning, but John and Yellow united willingly. They found common ground. The former king would have forced this union by any means necessary. This makes them different. When the former king was whole, neither John nor Yellow existed. Neither of them were ever the king. They are both entirely their own. The new King in Yellow isn't a god of two mended halves, but of two whole beings in one body, a new being who now has to deal with a conscience quite literally split in two. The new king tries his best to be his past self because he believes it's who he's supposed to be whole again. Then why does he rebuild Carcosa, slaughter its prisoners too, even when the end of all reality knocks on its gates? Why does he contradict himself, stating he is not what he once was? The King in Yellow is supposed to feel unconflicted, right? He expresses hatred over his past actions. He loathes and punishes himself to no end. He forever wishes himself pain. Doesn't that sound familiar? Who was it that expressed these exact same emotions months ago? The very same man now offers the king support, no matter what he chooses to be or who he was. However, Arthur makes it clear the king doesn't have to be in this form. He doesn't have to force himself into a form that by now feels like penance. Only he can decide who he is. And so John and Yellow decide to be themselves. Apart they are whole, forever changed. No more is the king in yellow. There is now only John and the king. Despite the very serious drawbacks, John and Arthur decide to reunite again. A decision to willingly limit themselves for the sake of being together again. I've mentioned this in a previous autopsy, but once again, a mutual sacrifice, a mutual gift. Thank you for listening. Let it be known that the joy in the server is infectious, and there is no place I'd rather be than here, experiencing all of this with everyone. Keep being yourselves. Much love. Enjoy the rest of the autopsy. Thank you so much for your submission, Ellie. That was beautiful.
Aw, that's really sweet, Ellie.
Hi, hello there, Autumn here, and I'm going to be frank, I had to go back and re-listen to this part again because I was having a minor breakdown on the prospect of Arthur regaining his sight, but false alarm! To the part discussion though, I love being right about everything and you should listen to me always. I may not have gotten the specifics, but I knew the king's guilt ran deep and I knew he was whole out of obligation rather than any true desire of his own. And can I just say, as much as I want Arthur to stay blind, I fucking loved his reaction to the king, because it wasn't fear or disgust like the king may have expected, nor was it that he was beautiful, because that may have been a bit far-fetched, but it was curiosity and acceptance. Arthur looked at the king, all of him, and asked if he was made his cloak float at the ends like that. I just think that this was so important to the king, but John specifically, who hated how his body emphasised his monstrosity, but whom Arthur was glad to finally see regardless. And what's the saying? That the last 5 minutes of a Malevolent episode can flip it on its head? Well, I am so fucking glad that's the case here, because not only is Arthur blind again, but we have John back, and we are so ready to take on the world. And can we also just stop to talk about Yellow for a moment? Because when they separated again, Yellow wasn't nearly as vengeful as he was in 40. The king was right about one thing. In recombining, I believe Yellow did gain at least a modicum of John's love for humanity, just as John gave in to his darker desires that Yellow must have amplified in regards to Larson. I'm so fucking glad that Yellow, upon splitting again, seems to have gained a sense of peace. Anyways, I am so excited for a king appearance. If Arthur's distraction is to dance with him, I will transcend into a higher plane of existence. Anyway, that's all from me. Bye!
Thank you, Autumn, for your submission. I think everybody thought of you
Yes.
this chapter. I certainly did. I think this is just such a historic part of Malevolent that we will reference for years and years to come
Yeah.
as everyone chill. It's going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Autumn, for documenting your journey throughout this part and throughout the last several parts.
Yes, agreed.
Hi guys, this is Friska Friskito, or just Friska, she, her, and this is my first autopsy submission. Hello! Right, I think what I loved most in this chapter is the time it took to just reflect. The chapter almost feels like an answer to what the manager meant by letting go. Do we let go of Faro, and what does that mean? What item do we pick, and will it even affect anything? Are you the king, Yellow, or John? How do we let go of our fear of what may happen and finally make a decision? In the grand scheme of things, our choices might seem insignificant. Sometimes all options lead to the same eventuality, but the how of it is different, and so each carries a different meaning regardless. Like Arthur said, it was never meant to be easy or certain. Even something as simple as picking bread or cheese meant something to someone. The choice mattered to us, and thus it mattered. All these voices weighing in on a singular question. It's about making a choice and moving forward. But you have to make the choice. So you breathe and you let go. It honestly felt like Arthur was telling us, I know it was hard, but I'm proud you've made it this far. And you know what? I'm very proud of us too. Not just the patrons, but to all of the listeners, those who gave their voices even after the fact, whether through discussion, through art, through stories, through their imaginations in general. Thank those voices in your head for me as well, will you?
Friska,
That was so
come host
sweet.
autopsy with me. Oh my god.
That was such a sweet message. And I can't believe that is your first submission to Autopsy. What a beautiful submission. I don't get easily choked up. This one got me a little choked up. So thank you so much, Friska, for that sentiment. It's so sweet.
You totally get it, and I love that. And thank you so much for submitting and for being part of the community. And it's true. I mean, the choices mattered to us, so yes, they mattered.
Yeah.
It doesn't, the outcome isn't the point. And I feel like that so much of Malevolent is that it's the outcome is not the fucking point.
And
it's everything else.
And so much of Autopsy is purely for the love of that experience of making the choice.
Yeah, for somebody who has so much anxiety about making choices, I have made a podcast about making choices because I love Malevolent and I love the choices Malevolent lets me make. We are so lucky to be allowed to make choices.
Call it exposure therapy.
As people. Truly. I mean, look, I think it's a beautiful part of the human experience is the ability and the cognitive comprehension that we possess to be able to make choices, and to make them as a community, I think, is even more beautiful.
It really is.
I think getting to talk about it with everybody, like to form a community around the making of choices to build a story, I can't think of anything more base human.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I do love that interactivity of this story, and the fact that it's like horror audio drama makes the stakes feel that much higher and is that much more exciting, and the payoff is that much more incredible. And you know, in part because Harlan is such a good writer, but I really love this genre that adds that extra level of stakes to the conversations and the decisions.
Agreed. And every time Arthur or anybody else in this podcast says, still fighting the voices in your head, I think, yeah, we're still here. We're still making choices, and we're here. We're still gonna make it hard. Sorry. Guys. It's kind of what we do.
Sorry, not sorry.
And so I think that's it for this episode of Autopsy.
I saved Friska's message for last because I thought it was a really lovely sentiment to end our night with.
Yes, I agree. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, of course, to Harlan Guthrie, the sole creator of Malevolent. Without his labor of love for a story he wants to tell, we wouldn't be here. To join the live recording, submit your own message, get in touch with me, and more, visit Linktree/Malevolent Autopsy. The official Invictus Discord server is open to the public and includes a channel just for Malevolent Autopsy fans. We also have our own private, patrons-only channel. Finally, thank you to Misraa, Nikki, Vol Control, and everyone who has helped create and maintain Malevolent Autopsy. These friends are also volunteers who donate time and energy to help put together this love letter to Malevolent. Remember, in the end, it's never about certainty. It's about making a choice and moving forward. Until next time, the horrors persist.
But so do we.